Okay, class, so today I'm going to be discussing the human skull. As we see here, it's got a lot of stuff going on here with it. So this is the left side of the skull here, and this is the right side of the skull. I'm going to focus mainly on the left side, just because I picked the left, no particular reason. Now, the frontal bone is right up here in the front, so to speak. And then it goes back from the frontal bone into the parietal bones. So those are the ones that are on the side, upper portion. Temporal bone is right here. It makes up the zygomatic arch and the zygoma bone, or zygomatic bone, which make up your cheekbones of the face. Moving to the back of the skull, we have the occipital bone, which is right here, and that leads to the magnum foramen. Now that is the primary location where the spinal cord leaves the skull from your brain, so that we can actually function as humans. Some of these suture marks here are also of importance, and what they do is form over time from when we're babies until adults. They form kind of rapidly from babies to little kids. Now, the coronal suture is right here, this one, and it comes up here to the sagittal suture, which is right here. Now, what's interesting about this is there is a little spot right here before these bones come together. They actually have the frontal fontanelle, which is just a soft spot on a baby's head. That is there because of the fact that we need to have room for our head to go through the vaginal canal when we are born. Also, there is the sagittal suture runs down here, and there's another foramen back here that is called the occipital foramen because it correlates with the occipital bone and the parietal bones of the skull. Now this is the left, this is the right, and this brings us to temporal bone, which I mentioned earlier. But in here, in this little area here, this is the EAM, or the external auditory meatus. That is the ear canal. In the ear canal, oops, I faded that, didn't mean to do that. Let's undo that. Inside that ear canal, there are three little bones, the incus, the malleus, and the stapes, or like hammer, anvil, and the other one that I can't quite remember the name of, the other name for it. But those make up the auditory canal, which is how you're hearing me now. The mandible is right here, and this is a big part of chewing, talking, all that kind of stuff. The maxilla is this frontal bone right up in here, kind of makes up their face. The occipital bone, or the orbit, excuse me, not the occipital bone, but the orbit is right here, and inside the orbit, this little bone right here is the lacrimal bone. Sits right next to the nasal bone, which is right here. Sphenoid sinus, which is back here, and if we fade a couple of these things away, it's easier to see the sphenoid sinus and the ethmoid sinus. The vomer is this bone back here that comes down underneath all this stuff and makes up the back of our mouth, as well as like the back of the ethmoid sinus, which you can see a lot better since fading the maxilla. You can see the ethmoid sinus right here, and the vomer bone is right there. Now, also, what we have is the palatine bone, and that actually is the one that makes up the bottom side of our mouth right here. So this guy, this little floating bone here is the hyoid, and then these guys right here, those actually are for veins and arteries that go out, or veins and arteries that go out into the brain to fuel it with blood so that we can live. And that is the human skull in a quick pro quo kind of way. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day.